Howdy all, grab yourselves a beer, it is time for some Path of Exile, and this is the second half of the introduction to incursion mechanics, and in this I want to show off two of the important rewards that you'll get in the temple. First up is the Atlas of Worlds room. Normally you won't be able to get this to tier 3, there's a fair bit of luck involved in that, but you're fairly often able to get the tier 1 or tier 2 version. Each tier that you get that you're able to rank it up will give you one chest. So you get one chest of maps for tier 1, 2 for tier 2, and 3 for tier 3. And they can drop anything up to and including the monster level of the zone. So here that's monster level 82 means tier 15 maps the highest. As always, there's a bias towards higher tier maps, but not necessarily strong enough to counteract the fact that there are 15 different tiers that can drop. Going in here, there's a whole bunch of trash that'll be in the zone. And there's also one boss. The boss is actually very easy. But having said that, watch me die to him. He is somewhere in that pile. I'm just killing off trash first. And you'll see those dusty charts nodes. That's what we're here for. I mentioned in part 1 of the video that here's that boss that I was mentioning. I mentioned in part 1 of the video that the that the main reward is these maps. Here we go. There's a 14, a 15, and I think Tropical Island's an 8 this league. Maybe it's a 9. Two 15s. Oh, this is actually much better than usual. That was a Poor Joys as well, which has in previous leagues been worth something. These mobs are really annoying. Only rare monsters and mini bosses in this zone can drop maps. And there's an 11. Okay, so that's the Atlas of Worlds zone. It's as simple as that. There's 11 different zones inside the temple, and some of them are... oh, they're all about the same size, about a quarter of a map. And now we'll go and we'll hit the boss. The zone boss has... oh, the boss of the entire temple has some modifiers that are affected by various other things you've done while you were setting the temple up. And it's a pretty straightforward fight, but it's one that's quite rough if you're melee. The reason it's rough is that he's got that pulsing thing around the bottom of him there. That is a damage over time aura that is deadly. And when you get him to half, he'll go invulnerable for a bit, and then there'll be a whole lot of spawns that will rush towards him, very similar to Atsuri if you've ever fought her. And these monsters, if they touch the boss, they'll sacrifice themselves to restore some energy shield to the boss. This is a chance to regain flask charges, but in general, and there we go, the invulnerability's over. Now it's going to have a few new attacks, all of which are pretty telegraphed, and most of which are not instantly lethal. You want to generally stay at range. Vial of Summoning, I'm not actually sure if that's one, I don't think that's one of the good ones. This drops a number of very special rare items. You'll notice here that it's got the suffix modifier of Tacity, chaos damage to spells, and cast speed. Whilst the overall package of an item here isn't that great, that mod is incredibly powerful. There will sometimes be scenarios where players will want to annul down to just one of these mods and then multi-mod from it. Having a look here, we've got of Puhurate. Puhurate is, again, and Tacity are both possible mini-bosses you can encounter. Here we've got 48% lightning resist and 53% increased crit chance against shocked enemies. This is a single mod. And here we've got the conditional move speed, so it's move speed and conditional bonus move speed. That one hasn't aged very well. It's surprising that some of those items can sell for more than you expect. In any case, just assessing the loot that we got from the temple. I've done the rest of it as well off camera. And we've got, what, 1 chaos, 2 fusing, so that's 1, 2, 3 chaos, 4.5, 5, 6, These are 2 Gem Cutters prisms between them, so that's 8. This was a lucky pull. At the time of making this, that was 20, so that's 28. That's 32, 44, 50, 51, 63, 64, 76, 77, 80, and that's rubbish. So 80, and I'm not sure what Poor Joys is worth. I don't think it's much. So loot returns from this were better than usual. They're in the 80s, and of that, I'm realistically going to realize about 60 of it. So yeah, that's reasonably. It's definitely always worth running your temple when it comes up, and prioritizing Elva to a modest extent. She's not as important as Nico is to your currency income, but it will definitely be worth your while over time. You can also go for the higher risk options of targeting things like the Corruption Chamber. That most of the time that you use a Corruption Chamber you lose, but sometimes you'll get a massive hit. I know certainly during the Incursion League, so when this first came out, a Frostferno unique helmet with 2 corruptions that gave it +2 levels to elemental hit was selling for 1 to 1.5, anywhere from 1.25 to 1.75 mirrors. So you know, you're talking well into the 200s of exalts. Last thing I'll point out with Elva, just make sure that you do get at least a tier 15 temple where possible. All rare monsters throughout the zone can then drop tier 16 maps, as well as that the Atlas room that I got, if you're able to get that, will be dropping tier 15 and down. If you can make it tier 16, that's even better. And one way that you can power charge that is when you notice that Elva is on a specific map on your Atlas. If it's much lower in level than you would like it to be, you can put a plaza in and then use Zana's Elder mod. So you spend 15 chaos and then it becomes a tier 16 version of that map. That's not always worth doing, and in fact at the moment I'm so low on raw chaos that I couldn't even afford it. Keep spending them. But it's something to at least consider if you're, especially if you've got a couple of tiers, a couple of ranks in the Atlas of Worlds. Anyway, that's all there is on the Incursion mechanics. They're pretty simple and they get much more obvious over time. Just remember the key thing of prioritizing the map rooms over everything else, then prioritizing the Corruption Chamber, the Contains chest full of items, and the Sacrificial Chamber. Well, the last thing I'll add is that this vial is, I mentioned when I was talking about the Sacrificial Chamber that the vials are, or that some of the unique items that you can get through here can be upgraded. This is how you upgrade them, but then you also need the tier 3 Sacrificial Chamber.